Okay, folks, we're going to get started. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeffrey DeWitz. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Saxon and Stump, who's serving as special counsel for the non-tourist area school district. This evening, I'm joined by members of the school board, along with individuals you'll hear from this evening: Dan Tormana, Superintendent Record, Drew Janik and Scott Cousins of Crabtree Rawburn Associates, and Lauren Spattle, Raymond and James. This is a public hearing being held in accordance with Act 34 of 1973, codified at Section 701.1 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code. Act 34 requires each school board to hold a public hearing to provide information to the public with respect to proposed construction or renovation projects, the need for the project, the potential cost of the project, and to obtain public input on such project. The agenda for tonight's hearing is set forth in the board packet or booklet, which was made available up here. There's additional copies here for any attendees. This evening, the Board of School Directors is holding a public hearing to inform the general public as to the school board's consideration of a project to construct an addition and otherwise renovate George C. Lyter Elementary School, located at 900 Spruce Street, Montoursville, Lycoming County, Pennsylvania. The project is in response to a district-wide review of the physical facilities and academic programs for the district's elementary school age student population. I would like to explain the legal requirements under Act 34 for tonight's hearing. First, Act 34 requires the preparation of a project booklet, which must be developed and be made publicly available upon request at the public hearing. Copies of the booklet have been made available for inspection at the district's administrative offices since August 6th. Additionally, we have additional copies of that booklet here for this evening for anyone in attendance. A copy of that booklet will be entered into the record and marked as School District Exhibit 1. Second, Act 34 requires the date, time, and location of the public hearing to be advertised for 20 calendar days in advance of the hearing. A copy of the public hearing advertisement can be found at page 27 in the booklet. We also have a proof of publication from the Williamsport Sun-Gazette showing that the advertisement appeared in that newspaper on August 6, 2025. A copy of the proof of publication will be entered into the record as School District Exhibit 2. Third, the school board was required to designate the maximum project cost and maximum building construction cost for the project. A copy of the school board's resolution adopted July 10, 2025 can be found at page 26 of the booklet. Fourth, members of the public in attendance this evening have the right to speak at the designated time of the agenda. The public hearing notice apprised individuals of their right to speak at this evening's hearing as set forth in that advertisement. People had the opportunity to sign up for public comment until 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. All speakers that will be recognized will be limited to 3 minutes speaking, and will advise the relevant ground rules when we arrive at that portion of the agenda for public comment. Finally, members of the public have the right to provide written comments to the school board for 30 days after tonight's hearing. Any such written comments may be submitted by U.S. mail to Montoursville Area School District, address 700 Mulberry Street, Montoursville, PA, zip code 17544. Any written comments shall include the name and address of the person submitting the written comments and must be received by the school district by no later than September 25th, 2025. All requirements with respect to the hearing have been met in light of the fact that we have the booklet, we've had the advertisement, and we have the resolution required by Act 34, and I therefore declare this Act 34 hearing of the Montoursville Area School District to be duly constituted. And note for the record, this is a formal hearing in the sense that we have a court stenographer here who is transcribing the proceedings, and a transcript can be made in the future if that proves necessary. Therefore, I would ask anyone that is either presenting this evening or anyone making public comment this evening to identify themselves for the court record, court stenographer. Additionally, any presenters or public commenters should speak loudly and slowly into the microphone and only speak one at a time so we can have a clear transcript for this evening. Page 2 of the booklet that has been made available sets forth the agenda for tonight's hearing. At this point, I will turn over the program to the superintendent of schools for his presentation on the project needs and options considered.
Thank you, Dan Taormina, Taormina, Superintendent of the Montoursville Area School District. I would also like to note that the hearing tonight is being recorded, video and audio. Table of contents of the booklet, followed by the hearing agenda. I'll cover the project needs and options considered. Crabtree will then take over for the project description, the accounting of it. Financial analysis will be done by Raymond James. That will be followed by public comment. The project need, the Montoursville Area School District proposes the consolidation of Loyalsock Valley Elementary School into the Lyter Elementary School. This strategic initiative is driven by a comprehensive analysis of declining student enrollment trends, the imperative to optimize operational efficiencies, and the commitment to enhancing educational opportunities for all elementary students within the district. The consolidation aims to create a more robust and equitable learning environment while ensuring fiscal responsibility and long-term sustainability for the district. The result of this consolidation is a renovation and addition project at Lyter Elementary School, which will be funded by the savings realized from the closing of Loyalsock Valley Elementary School. I would like to note that this is a proactive measure to address demographic shifts and ensure the long-term viability and excellence of the Montoursville Area School District, while acknowledging the sentimental value associated with Loyalsock Valley Elementary School. The district's primary responsibility is to provide the best possible educational environment for its current and future students in a financially sustainable manner. The consolidation will allow the district to focus resources on maintaining and upgrading a single modern elementary facility, ensuring it meets the evolving needs of 21st century learners. The options considered, there were 7 of them. Option 1 was comprehensive renovations and minor additions to Loyalsock Valley Elementary School, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades to Lyter Elementary School. Option 1 maintained all of the current grade configuration. Option 2 was comprehensive renovations and major additions to Loyalsock Valley Elementary School, and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system upgrades to Lyter. This also maintained the current grade configuration. Option 3 was to close Loyalsock Valley Elementary School and consolidate to Lyter Elementary School with comprehensive renovations and additions to Lyter and maintaining the current grade configuration. Option 4 was to close Loyalsock Valley Elementary School, convert Lyter to a district-wide K-2 primary school with comprehensive renovations and additions to C.E. McCall Middle School for grades 3 through 4, in addition to the 5 through 8 that's there. Option 5 was to close Lyter and convert Loyalsock Valley to district-wide K-2. And then there would be comprehensive renovations and major additions at that building. We would also construct additions to C.E. McCall Middle School for grades 3 through 4, making McCall a grade 3 through 8 building. Option 6 was to convert Loyalsock Valley Elementary School to a district-wide 3 through 4 intermediate school and Lyter Elementary to a district-wide K through 2 primary school. Comprehensive renovations and major additions to Loyalsock Valley Elementary School and comprehensive renovations to Lyter Elementary School would take place under this option. And finally, option 7 was to close Loyalsock Valley Elementary School, close Lyter Elementary School, and construct a new K-4 elementary school at C.E. McCall Middle School on that site, not on the building. This would maintain all current grade configurations. Ultimately, option 3 was selected, where we close Loyalsock Valley Elementary School and consolidate to Lyter, where we do major additions and renovations to that building. I will now turn this over to Scott Cousin from Crabtree.
Good evening. Go through some of
the more technical requirements of the Act 34 hearing, when we talk about cost. On page 10 of the booklet is a summary of district-owned buildings and lands. As you were just made aware, this project was to close Loyalsocket Valley Elementary School, which has an existing capacity of 575, and consolidate to George C. Lyter Elementary School, which has an existing capacity of 325. With the additions, it will have a new capacity of 750, and these are Pennsylvania Department of Education standard capacities of 25 students per classroom. So talk a little bit about the project. I'm not going to focus too much on the narrative here, just a couple of highlights, then we'll dive into the floor plan and the site plan, which are a better graphic representation of what we're doing. But the project consists of around 19,000 square foot of new construction and renovation of the entire existing building, which is approximately 68,000 square feet. As mentioned before, it'll house grades K to 4. It'll have 6 classrooms per grade level for the total capacity of 750. The existing site is 7.55 acres. There's available electric, gas, water, and sewer, public utilities. Proposed parking spaces are 105, and part of what we're doing on the site is to address vehicular circulation, and I'll kind of go through the site plan as a better description. So the existing building is better, this L-shaped piece here, kind of and the U's around to the top here, and it's a little hard to see. I apologize. This is not in your booklet. It was omitted for security and safety reasons. So the addition is highlighted here in yellow. So in the center courtyard is one of the additions. At the end of this classroom wing is another addition. And as I mentioned before, one of the key factors we're trying to address on the site is vehicular circulation. So to the south end of the existing building, you'll see here we're creating a new access drive. This will service as the parent drop-off loop. Access will be to the south of the site through the existing parking lot, through that loop, through the existing parking lot, and into the front of the building where the students will be dropped off there. That allows adequate stacking of cars on site rather than interfering with the public road system. To the east side of the property, we're proposing a new curb cut that would house the bus traffic, the bus drop-off there to the side. So we're essentially separating those two paths of traffic and also addressing the parking needs on site, while at the same time maintaining the 2 existing ball fields to the south of the site. Looking at the floor plan, and once again, for security reasons, this was omitted from the booklet. There is the addition in the courtyard here I mentioned before, the addition to the north for the kindergarten wing. And you'll see that from a renovation standpoint, the front of the building in this pink here will be an all-new administrative suite that would be renovated to meet the district's need from an administrative standpoint, and also address the secure vestibule up front. Guidance suite across the hall with that, and the nurse's suite adjacent. In the addition is where we get the bulk of the additional classrooms needed for this consolidation, along with the supporting spaces such as special education, STEM classroom, and storage needs, and also new toilet rooms. The existing building renovations will consist of upgrades and replacement of the HVAC system, plumbing system upgrades, electrical system upgrades, new LED lighting, roofing repairs in certain sections of the building, and window replacement. Next, we're going to look at some of the costs. And these costs are what we call PlanCon D forms. This is back when PlanCon was in effect. The Department of Education used these forms as a way to decipher the costs so that it extrapolates to the correct Act 34 maximum building cost calculations. So we still use those forms today, even in the absence of PlanCon. So on the left, you'll see PlanCon DO2. That's page 15 of your booklet. And starting from the top, A1 through A6 A1 through A4 are estimated construction costs. We are required to, by the Separations Act of Pennsylvania, have multiple primes bid this project. So we're separating it into a general heating, HVAC, plumbing, electrical primes. You'll see a breakdown of projected estimated new construction costs for the additions and existing construction costs for the renovations. As we get further along in the presentation, you'll see that the Act 34 maximum building construction cost is based on the additions only. So that's why we need to separate the new cost from the existing. So the estimated construction cost of what we expect to see on bid day from lines A1 to A7 subtotal is around $7.6 million for the new and around $12 million for the existing, for a total of around $19.7 million. Next, you'll have some line items for builder's risk insurance and construction insurance, followed by architect's fees. These are our fees, including all of our engineers, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, civil engineering. Movable fixtures and equipment, so these are anything that the district purchases outside the construction contract, that's furniture or technology equipment. And then further down the line, line item E on that page breaks out some of the soft costs. The calculation, when you go to the maximum building construction cost, excludes site costs with the exception of sanitary sewer. Flipping to page D of 3, continuance of the accounting. These are starting at the top with G is the additional construction related costs. So line item 4 is printing, 5 is test borings. These are geotechnical borings to test the suitability of the soil for foundations. Line item 6 is a site survey. And then line item 7 captures other construction soft costs, including testing, inspections, and other regulatory agency review fees. Line item 8 is a construction contingency. So you get to line item 9 for the total additional construction related costs of $1.29 million. This is followed by H and I. I won't go into too much detail. H, I, and J won't go into too much detail, but the district's financial representative will go through that in more detail, but this deals with financing costs. So the total financing cost is $325,500, and deals with also how the project is being financed and what comes from a bond source and what comes from local funds. Flipping to D20. This is kind of one of the two parts of the Act 34 process, and this is the maximum building construction cost. So if you look at line item A, that is the structure cost, the architectural fees, and the movable fixture equipment on the new additions. So that line item is $8.8 million. Then the calculation subtracts any site development costs. So we have estimated site costs of $650,000 with our civil engineering fee of $282,000. That gets you to the maximum building construction cost of $7,899,126, which was adopted by the board for the maximum building construction cost resolution. I'll note line item D at the bottom. This cost per the Act 34 regulations cannot be exceeded more than 8%. If that cost is exceeded by more than 8% when we receive bids or any duration of the time during the project, then the second Act 34 hearing will need to be held. One of the other key points of an Act 34 process is to make sure the district is not exceeding the state's maximum building expenditure standard. So this is basically the checks and balances to make sure that the district's not spending beyond their means or beyond what the state standard is for building size of this addition. So to do that, we calculate the Act 34 capacity of the building, which isn't to be confused with how many students you can fit in there. This is just purely a calculation to go through the process of validating the maximum building expenditure standard. So you'll see at the top, we're separating the Act 34 capacity of the existing building versus the newer building, so we can apply our prorated ratio to the new building only. And you can see at the bottom, the total for for the Act 34 capacity of the building is 1,468, of which 444 is attributed to the addition. Once again, not capacity of how many students you can fit in here, or just to serve the calculation. Going to B23, we then take this capacity, apply it to a per pupil limit. The state updates this limit every year. So what you see there, the 25,785 per pupil capacity is the current 24-25 limits that were published by the Department of Education. When you apply that to the 444 students, you go to line E at the bottom and you get the maximum building expenditure standard of $11,448,540. This is the amount that cannot be exceeded. If you exceed that amount, you need to go through a referendum process. And our maximum building construction cost, once again, is there at $7.8 million. So we're well below that expenditure standard. And kind of check off the box there. Now I'll turn it over to Lauren Stadel, who's going to talk about how the project is being financed.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, everyone. Lauren Stadel with Raymond James. My firm's had the pleasure of serving as the district's bond underwriter for the past several decades. So it's our pleasure to present this section of the Act 34 booklet tonight. The Act requires that we go through the financing alternatives that were analyzed as a direct result of the project, along with the actual plan of finance, any potential millage impact, and any potential indirect costs or savings that come as a result of the project. So pages 20 and 21 detail the different financing alternatives that are available to the Montoursville Area School District. First and foremost, we were able to rule out a cash or short-term borrowing for the project. Very few school districts in the Commonwealth are able to pay cash for the full amount of projects of this magnitude. However, we will applaud the district for having set aside some significant dollars over the last several years, and we anticipate that approximately $6 million of the district's own reserves will be used toward the project to downsize any borrowing that you do undertake. So, ruling out any cash payment in full options for the project, you're really left with three different long-term financing alternatives, those being a general obligation bond or bank loan of the school district, a local authority issue, or an issue done through the State Public School Building Authority. And a comparison of those three separate financing alternatives is available on page 21. We were able to do the analysis and pretty quickly come to the observation that a general obligation bond issue of the district is the most economic way to finance the project. And the reasons are twofold. First of all, the financing costs for a GO bond issue are significantly less than going through an authority or the State Public School Building Authority. Additionally, the school district has a really excellent bond rating and is able to issue these bonds with their full faith, credit, and taxing power, and an excellent credit rating that allow us to garner better interest rates in the market than if we were to go through an authority or the State Public School Building Authority, and those would be revenue bonds subject to a higher overall interest rate. Pages 22 and 23 detail then the intended plan of finance for the project. We intend to issue a general obligation bond, what will likely be in 2026, series of 2026 bond that is detailed in a debt service schedule on page 23. But in table 2A, you can see the calculation of the average annual debt service that is created from the intended structure of the bond issue. The bonds are structured in such a way that they wrap around the district's existing debt for prior projects so that we're minimizing any annual impact to the district's budget for debt service, therefore trying to minimize any taxpayer impact as well. So if this were to be financed on a level debt basis, we would assume that in table 2A, with the district's collected value of a mill, that would generate about 2.2 mils needed for the project. However, due to the structure that we're going to be implementing with the wraparound, that is reduced down to 1.02 mils. On the next couple pages, in a couple pages, we'll talk about the indirect savings as a result of the project. But because of the closure and the consolidation, there will be some operational savings that lower the overall impact of the project from the 1.02 mils down to just south of 0.5 mils. Page 24 is what we call a millage study, and this sets forth the debt service schedule that we reviewed on the prior page and shows how it fits in conjunction with the district's existing debt. So you can see on a year-by-year basis how much existing debt the district has in that second column in. The green column then is the hypothetical proposed series of what is actually going to probably be 2026. These numbers were dated as of 2025, but more than likely, until bids come in, that will actually settle in 2026. The green column represents the new debt service. We then see the approximate $233,000 that was set aside in fiscal 2025 of ongoing mills for the project. Additionally, once we get to the point where the project is online and operational is when we'll start to realize some of those operational savings, and you see that coming into play in fiscal years 28 and 29 in the orange columns. So we go from an overall debt service run rate on the left side column of about $3 million annually. And once the project is financed and in place, we're looking at annual debt service amounts of just south of $4 million a year, out through 2041, at which point, barring any other projects, the district will be debt-free. Lastly, in conjunction with the administration, we put together this summary of the indirect cost savings that the district anticipates as a result of the project. Those are related to support staff and teaching personnel savings, savings on utilities and fuel, savings on materials, supplies, and equipment, as well as building operation and maintenance, a small savings in your insurance premium, to net approximately $450,000 of annual operational savings, which, as we said, ties back to Table 2A, showing those savings buying the total millage impact to just south of 0.5 mils for the project. So with that, I'll turn it back to Attorney Litz to wrap up and move us on to questions.
Jeff Litz again. So again, we had the resolution that I mentioned previously that the board was required to adopt, and we have a copy of that here at page 26, setting forth those maximum figures for the project. We also had the public hearing notice, which I noted for the record, which was advertised in the newspaper of general circulation, in this case the Orange Port Sun Gazette. And here's a copy setting forth both those figures and the rights of the public comment, as well as the date, time, and place of the hearing. Now we can go to the ground rules for public comment. We do have these summarized in the packet, but just want to go over some things. First, we did have a pre-registration, so if there was anyone pre-registered, we would call those individuals first. If there wasn't anyone pre-registered that is here, I believe we will take comments from those until we've exhausted all of those. Second, I would ask that anyone wishing to make public comment do so from the microphone, and that has been set up in the front of the auditorium, so the stenographer can hear you. Third, before beginning to speak, please state your name and address. We want to know if you're a resident of the school district, and that way we can identify you. Any speakers that make public comment is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. I will have my iPhone and track that and try to wave to you if you approach that limit. Please respect that time limit, and we will monitor it. If you reach the time limit, I will politely ask you to wrap up your comments and conclude. Additionally, if anyone would like to submit written comments or comments that exceed those limits, you're happy to do so and submit those to the school district, as I explained previously, by mailing them to the district. Finally, the intent of public comment portion of this hearing is to receive your comments, not to engage in a question and answer period or engage in public dialogue or debate. The school district will keep track of any questions that may be raised during public comment this evening and intends to provide written answers to those questions that have already been posted on its website by supplementing those questions with answers so the entire public, as well as any individuals tonight that raised them, could receive those answers. So with that, it's my understanding there was no pre-registration for public comment. That's correct? Right. So we do not. Is there anyone else present at tonight's hearing that wishes to make public comment? Scanning the room, I do not see any hands. Therefore, I don't believe we have anyone for public comment. Going once, twice, sold. At this point in time, if there's no public comment, we can adjourn this hearing and thank everyone for coming out this evening.